welcome to episode number 14 of Musings of a Guild Leader. My name is Senda, as it is always, and this week I have a really big subject to talk about, really. Last week we talked about recruitment. I filled you guys in on my personal views on how recruitment should be handled, how we do it within our guild, and specifically how making an application is the biggest part, in my opinion, about having a solid recruitment process, and the making of an application being the most important step, and how much you can gain during that phase of simply making an application, how much stuff you can cram in there to make it even more awesome, to improve the chances of you actually getting accepted by a guild you want to join. Now, before I start off with this week's topic, I just want to dive in to that topic just a little bit, and because I had a few questions from a few various people about a few more specific details about our recruitment, that is Intrepid Society, the guild, how we handle stuff. One of the questions I got was, do you guys want any specific class or race combinations? Does that help when I apply to your guild? And the answer is yes and no. First and foremost, we recruit players. We don't necessarily recruit specific class or race combinations. Having said that, we kind of lack range DPS at the moment. We have a few people in the guild who are leveling either an alt or leveling their main because they're sort of running behind the rest of the team at the moment, and they're coming up to par, and give or take a few weeks they'll be in the raiding team and we'll have some more range DPS. But a specific guild at a certain point in time, be it Intrepid Society or some other guild you're trying to apply to, will always, most of the time, lack something. I mean, if you're applying to a raiding guild, chances are their recruitment is open for a reason. They will either lack a specific class or lack something for their raid, and you happen to be in a position where you fulfill that. Let's say they need a hunter, you are a hunter, and you're going like, well, it's a nice guild, this is finally my time to apply, I'm going to apply. Of course, that doesn't really apply to us. We still raid, but we don't necessarily recruit one certain class or race combination. What you can always do, though, is, let's just take Intrepid Society as an example. Our current raid leader is Svintilla. You can look him up on the forums, and you could make a level 1 alt, or if you are already on our server, just whisper him on your main, whisper him and have a chat with the guy, and go like, hey, I'm figuring out if I want to join your guild or not. I'm trying to wrap my head around the recruitment process, and I'm currently wondering, are you in need of the specific character that I play the most? Is that going to be beneficial? I mean, at the very least, you are going to get some kind of answer out of this that will help you in some way. Either it's no, we don't necessarily need you, or yes, ooh, that is actually quite awesome that we're now having, let's say, an elemental shaman applying where we don't actually have one in our current raid setup. Just an example, because we actually have one up and coming, but stuff like this. It is basically you doing the groundwork before you actually go and make an application, and stuff like that will actually help. So I hope that answers the few questions that I got from a various amount of people, and I hope this really makes you able to put in some more groundwork and make your applications even more successful. So best of luck to all of you guys out there making an application. Right, and then the actual topic that I want to talk about this week, which is dealing with really big issues within your guild. And the episode this week is going to be somewhat longer than the previous weeks. In fact, I'm guessing this episode will be nearly twice as long as normal, so half an hour instead of 15 minutes. And this is because I have a rather big story to tell you guys this week. 2 weeks ago we had the previous episode, we had the recruitment episode basically. And this week, it's now 2 weeks later, and we have episode 14. This is because last episode was recorded on a Tuesday, or on a Sunday, and we aired it on a Tuesday morning. Now, Tuesday evening following that, we had a big guild meeting, because we have one every single month. We have a guild meeting to discuss what we did last month, basically. We have all the various departments of the guild present what they did last month. So we had Wark giving us an update on the guild bank. We had Sarah revealing the new website, because we actually have a new website now. It's really shiny. You should all check it out. It is on www.intrepid society.com. At least I believe it's a hyphen in English. It's one of those small little lines in between the text, and it's not actually an underscore, so it's in the middle. Go there, check out our new website. It's awesome. And we use meetings like this to present what we did last month. So we had, an update from the raiding crew. We had an update from what we did with PvP, etc. We run past all the various stuff that we actually have officers for and have them present all their stuff to the guildies. So this serves a few purposes. One, of course, is informing everyone of what we're doing. And doing that actually creates a sense of unity within your guild. Everyone knows what's going on. And that makes it that people are going like, yeah, our guild is awesome. Sort of. That's what you're aiming for, basically. Now, what we also try and do within those meetings is discuss the really big issues if they arise. And one of them did. Now, and this is a very common issue, actually. This will surface in pretty much every single social guild as soon as just one person gets interested in raiding. If you have a social guild and no one wants to raid, then you probably won't have this issue. But as soon as you have just one person that is interested in raiding, you will have a problem, usually, within a social guild. And we kind of ran into the same thing. And yeah, it was interesting. So, let's start at the beginning. We had the guild meeting. We discussed everything. We presented everything. Everyone was like, ooh, shiny new website, awesome. And then we came to the end of the meeting and I said, oh, that sort of handles everything. Now we're going to address the issue that one of our guild members brought forward, which is a lack of performance during the last raid and how this reflects upon us as a raiding team. The problem was that the one raid we did, I was actually in that raid, and I'm still ashamed to this day of my performance during that one raid. It was the second raid we did as a guild. We went into Blackwing Descent and we went and tried Magma and the Omnitron defense system. Suffice to say, to keep this really short, we wiped some more, and we died and we died and we died, and we didn't get anywhere near killing a boss. And there's various reasons for this, and the biggest one is that people were simply not ready. If I take myself as an example, which is the easiest because I'm the one talking here, and of course, being the guild master, I'm supposed to be the one that's leading by example. I messed it up, really. I completely messed it up. I went in there as a discipline priest, which pre-patch was not necessarily a bad thing, but you would probably be better off being holy, just to start out with, because it's a little bit easier, basically. We went in there. We had me as a discipline priest, and we had a holy priest, and we had a holy paladin. The healing failed horribly. People were taking massive amounts of damage. That wasn't necessarily the issue in the first try. We just failed to heal them. People died. Stuff like that just shouldn't happen, right? I as a person was completely unprepared for the mayhem and madness that raid healing was. It had been 2 months almost at that point since my last try at raid healing, because I had been on my paladin tanking until at some point I actually made the switch back to Senda. For those of you who don't know, I actually switched back to Senda. That is now my main again. I'm actually a discipline healer again on my priest instead of tanking on my Tauren paladin. I am fickle like this, but it was needed. We had enough tanks as it is, and we didn't have enough healers, so hence. Right, so I was underperforming badly. I wasn't healing enough. I wasn't paying attention enough. And that's something that can happen, right? You wipe and you go like, oh shit, so this is what it is again, right? We're gonna res, release, run back, run in, do it again. We did it. We wiped again. And again. And again. And again. And basically because I couldn't avoid lava pillars. Not only am I not healing enough, I'm not noticing AoE effects on the floor, I'm not noticing other stuff. I completely missed the fact that the tank was being gobbled up. I could have tossed, a pain suppression on the guy. I completely missed that as well. I was just not focused at all. Right? The worst day ever. And I wasn't actually having a bad day, I was just not focusing for some reason. And that is really bad, because that means if one person does this, currently with the raids being as hard as they are for a guild that is not as completely, totally mental serious about raiding as a normal raiding guild is, because we are in essence a social guild. We are slightly below par on raiding guilds, if you were to be exact about the whole thing. It is still unforgivable, right? You cannot have one person slacking off in a 10-player raid. You will die and wipe and everything. Now, the point is, I wasn't the only one messing up. We had half the raid not being able to focus, just like me, basically. And that was horrible. It really was. It was absolute crap. Now, the end result of this is that at the meeting, well, I'm not entirely sure actually, like a few days after that raid, someone posted a thread on our forums, which was basically his rant about how this was horrible and how this needed to change, because otherwise, they would have to go somewhere else for their raiding, because this would be pointless. And you will get stuff like this. But before I go into the specifics, I'm gonna finish my story, obviously. He made the thread, he got some replies on that, most of whom were actually along the lines of, well, let's try and fix it. Right? I've been in social guilds where I made a thread like that, and the replies I got was, but we're a social guild, we're not meant to put this much effort into raiding, so why don't you just kindly fuck off and not bother us with all this crap? We don't want to read up on tactics and sort out our gear and everything. Now, that is one extreme, obviously. That really simply does not work. I was actually quite surprised at the positive spin people tried to put on this in our guild, and I think that's down to the spirit within our guild, which is just a positive one. We got to the meeting, and the person who made that thread in advance poked me and said, look, can I bring this up in the meeting, because I really feel we have to discuss this as a guild. And I said, yeah, sure, of course. We got to the end of the meeting. I said, well, we're going to discuss this right now, and I am, as a guild leader, obviously, I'm going to make sure that I have the overview over this discussion. So I'm going to sit to the side, not give you guys my opinion until the very end. That's when I'll give you guys my opinion, because I want you guys to do the talking. But I'm going to sit here and sort of monitor the whole thing and make sure that the discussion stays on the topic and stays on track. Right? Actively monitor the discussion. As soon as someone goes off topic on the entire thing, I just cut them off and go like, no, that's not relevant. Back to the main topic. So the topic was basically an underperformance of players. This was down to two things, and the biggest one was a lack of player skill, which was